What if Stranger Things 11 entered Squid Game Season 3? From deadly dolls to brutal betrayals, we'll see if her telekinesis and survival instincts could carry her to victory, or if the games would take her down. First up, let's talk about red light, green light. This game is brutal. A creepy giant doll acts as a motion detector singing green light when you can move and red light when you have to freeze. If it catches you moving, you're toast, shot dead on the spot. The goal is to cross the finish line within the time limit without getting caught. Now, 11's no stranger to high-pressure situations. She's faced demogorgons and mind flayers, so a creepy doll, probably not her biggest worry, but the stakes are sky-high and one wrong move could end her. 11's telekinesis gives her a huge edge here. She's got this ability to move things with her mind, and she's precise when she needs to be. Picture her standing at the starting line, heart pounding, surrounded by desperate players. When the doll sings green light, she'd probably move cautiously at first, sizing up the game. She's smart, and she's used to staying calm under pressure from all those battles in Hawkins. But here's where her powers could shine. If she stumbles or gets pushed by another player during red light, she could use her telekinesis to subtly steady herself, keeping her body perfectly still so the doll's sensors don't catch her. It's not like she'd fling people across the field. That'd draw too much attention, and 11's all about laying low when she can. Instead, she'd use small, controlled bursts of power to keep her balance or nudge away anyone crowding her space. The challenge, though, is the chaos. Players are panicking, shoving, and falling, and that could distract her. 11's got a good heart, so she might be tempted to help someone who's about to get caught, like using her powers to stop a falling player from moving. But that'd be risky because it could expose her abilities to the game's organizers who are watching through cameras. She'd probably decide to focus on herself, moving steadily toward the finish line, using her powers only when absolutely necessary. By staying calm and leveraging her telekinesis for micro-adjustments, she'd likely cross the line without much trouble. Red light, green light is all about control, and 11's got that in spades. So yeah, she'd survive this one, no sweat. Now let's move to the six-legged pentathlon. This game sounds like a team-based nightmare, a cooperative challenge where players are tied together in groups with their legs bound to force teamwork and have to complete a series of physical tasks or mini-games. Think relay races or obstacle courses, but with the added twist of being physically connected. If anyone messes up, the whole team could fail, and in Squid Game, failure usually means death. This game tests coordination, trust, and physical endurance, which puts 11 in an interesting spot. 11's not exactly a team player by nature. She's used to handling things solo or with her close-knit Hawkins crew, but she's adaptable and she's worked with others under pressure. In this game, she'd need to rely on strangers, which could be tough because she's wary of people she doesn't know, thanks to her lab days. Let's say she's tied leg to leg with 5 other players and they have to navigate an obstacle course together. The team has to move in sync. If one person trips, everyone goes down and the clock's ticking. Here's where 11's powers could be a game changer, but she'd have to be sneaky. If her team's struggling to stay coordinated, she could use her telekinesis to subtly guide their movements, like gently pushing a teammate's leg forward to match the group's rhythm or steadying someone who's about to fall. She wouldn't want to make it obvious, though, because the game's organizers might notice something's off, and other players could turn on her if they suspect she's different. 11's dealt with betrayal before, so she'd be cautious, keeping her powers under wraps unless it's a life-or-death moment. The bigger challenge might be trust. Some players in Squid Game are selfish, willing to sabotage their team to save themselves. If 11 senses someone's about to mess things up, say by refusing to cooperate, she could use her mind-reading vibe to gauge their intentions. If push comes to shove, she might even use a quick telekinetic shove to convince a troublemaker to fall in line, but only as a last resort. Her goal would be to keep the team moving forward, using her strength and smarts to lead without standing out. Physically, she's tough. She's fought monsters and survived lab experiments, so the course itself wouldn't faze her. By blending her powers with her natural resilience, she'd likely pull her team through, surviving the six-legged pentathlon. Next, let's tackle the mingle game. It's like a social deduction game where forming short-term alliances to fit a needed number so they can run into a room to stay safe. It's kind of like musical chairs but with rooms instead, and you have to try your best to avoid elimination. For 11, this is a whole different beast because it takes a level of brute force and speed mixed with spatial awareness and intelligence. In the mingle game, 11 would use her deep intuition to read the room. Since the game involves picking allies, she'd probably gravitate toward players who seem genuine, avoiding the schemers who remind her of Dr. Brenner or Angela, her old bully. Her telepathy-like abilities could help here, letting her pick up on subtle cues, like a player's nervous thoughts or hidden motives, if she focuses hard enough. But she'd have to be careful not to overdo it, because using her powers too much drains her, and she might need energy for later. The tricky part is the social aspect. 11's not a smooth talker, she's blunt and doesn't always get social cues thanks to her isolated upbringing. The game might require her to convince others to trust her. She might struggle to play the charming diplomat, but her sincerity could win people over. She's the kind of person that wears her heart on her sleeves, regardless of how tough she might like to seem. And that kind of honesty could sway players who are scared and looking for someone to trust. But when the time came to abandon players that she had bonded with because the game required players to break into smaller group numbers, 11's moral compass would make things tough. She's not one to throw people under the bus unless they're truly bad. Hide and Seek, the fourth game. This isn't your childhood hide and seek, it's a bloodbath. Players draw from a giant gumball machine to get either a red ball, making them a seeker with a knife, or a blue ball, making them a hider with a key, circle, triangle, or square. Seekers have 30 minutes to hunt and kill at least one hider to pass, or they're eliminated. Hiders can hide in a maze-like arena with locked doors, which they can open with their key, but the doors can't be relocked. To escape, hiders need all three key types to unlock an exit, or they can hide until time's up. Players can swap teams before the game starts if they find a willing partner. The arena's got a starry ceiling and kids' drawings, but it's a maze of death with 60 players, 35 of whom don't make it. 11's no stranger to danger, so she'd approach this game with her usual mix of caution and courage. Let's say she draws a blue ball, making her a hider, because her powers would be most useful staying out of sight. She'd get a key, let's say a triangle one, and have 2 minutes to scout the maze before the seekers come in. 11's used to running from bad guys like the Hawkins lab goons, so she'd move fast, using her telekinesis to quietly unlock doors and slip through. She'd probably sense the maze's layout with her mind, giving her an edge in finding good hiding spots or the exit. But the maze is chaotic, with seekers wielding knives and hiders panicking, so she'd need to stay sharp. Her biggest asset is her telekinesis. If a seeker corners her, she could fling their knife away or pin them against a wall without touching them. She'd be careful though, because showing off her powers could make her a target for the game's organizers or other players. 11's got a good heart, so she might team up with other hiders like a trio with different key types to unlock the exit together. If someone tries to betray her, like Seon Nyo got betrayed in the show, 11's intuition would kick in. She'd sense their bad vibes, maybe even peek into their mind to confirm. If push comes to shove, she could use a quick telekinetic shove to escape a seeker, but she'd avoid killing unless it's life or death, because that's not her style. By staying hidden, using her powers subtly, and maybe guiding a small group to the exit, she'd survive this game, either by escaping or outlasting the 30 minutes. Next up is Jump Rope, the fifth game. This one's a nightmare. Picture a narrow bridge over a deep chasm, with the creepy dolls Young-hee and Chil-soo swinging a massive steel rope between them. Players have 20 minutes to cross the bridge, jumping over the rope with perfect timing, or they get swept off to their death. There's also a gap in the middle of the bridge you have to leap over, making it even harder. This game took out players like Nam-gyu and Jun-hee, who sacrificed herself because of an injury. It's all about timing, agility, and nerve. 11's got the mental toughness for this, but physically she's not super athletic, so she'd rely heavily on her powers. As the rope swings, she could use telekinesis to slow it down, just enough to time her jumps perfectly, like how she levitated objects to fight monsters. She'd watch the rope's rhythm, maybe even sense its speed with her mind, giving her an edge over players who were just guessing. The gap in the bridge is trickier, but she could give herself a telekinetic boost to leap across, kind of like how she can flip a van with her powers. The chasm below would be terrifying, but Eleven's faced scarier things like the upside down, so she'd keep her cool. The real challenge is other players. Some, like Namgyu, who got pushed or sabotaged, and Eleven would need to watch her back. If someone tries to shove her, she could sense their intent and push them back with a telekinetic nudge, keeping it subtle to avoid suspicion. She might even help someone struggling, like Junhee's baby, because her protective streak runs deep. But she'd prioritize crossing the bridge, focusing her energy on timing her jumps and clearing the gap. Her powers would give her the precision and boost she needs, and her experience staying calm under pressure would carry her to the other side within the time limit. Jump rope's brutal, but Eleven's got the skills to survive. Finally, we've got Squid Game, the sixth and final game played on 3 tall platforms shaped like a square, triangle, and circle. Each round, players have 15 minutes to push at least one person off to their death after someone presses a button to start the round. If no one's eliminated, everyone dies. The game's a brutal test of betrayal and survival, with only Junhee's baby surviving in the show after Gi-hoon's sacrifice. It's about physical skill, but more about outsmarting others in a moral quagmire. If it comes to a fight, her telekinesis gives her a huge edge. She could push someone off without touching them, but she'd hate it, because she's not about harming innocents. She'd probably try to protect weaker players, like the baby in the show, using her powers to shield them from others' attacks. By the final platform, if it's down to her and a few others, she might pull a Gi-hoon move, sacrificing herself to save someone else because that's her vibe. She's selfless, like when she took on the Mind Flayer to save her friends. But let's say she fights to survive. Her powers would let her outmaneuver anyone trying to push her, and she could use her mind to sense the group's dynamics, picking off the most dangerous players if forced to. She'd hate every second, but her survival instincts would kick in, and she'd make it through by outsmarting and outpowering the competition. So does Eleven survive all the games? You bet. Her Hawkins battles taught her to stay calm, adapt, and protect what matters, and that's enough to conquer Squid Game Season 3's deadly arena. Now, if she could just find some waffles to celebrate, she'd be golden.